And hello, everybody. I am here to welcome you to the RoxAnne Lava Monday Mission, and we have a few things to discuss today. Um, One of the biggest things that I wanted to discuss with you, you'll notice I'm not in my studio today, and that is also because what I want to tell you today and share with you is something that is keeping me from my studio and is one of the things that every solopreneur and solo maker will actually probably face at one time or another. If you watch my opening closely, you may have caught a glimpse of my dog. He's an old guy, 17 and a half years old. He's been with me for 16 and 3/4 of those. And he is, of course, aging and has a few sort of elderly issues. But he has been struggling with two issues that are really keeping him from thriving and had him hospitalized. So, what I want to sort of just talk to you about is this is one of the biggest challenges for solopreneurs and solo makers in particular. But that is something that we have to talk about and think about, and it's something that is a challenge to making our business sustainable. So, to sort of talk with you about this, I wanted to start out by saying that one of the things that we need to always understand as a solopreneur is that we are our business. That means we are the face of our business. It means that we are the face of our brand. It means that we wear all the hats. It means that we do all of the work. Sometimes, if we're lucky enough as solopreneurs, we are able to outsource some of our work to other people and to hire other hopefully solopreneurs to do some work for us. And we've talked about that a little over the time that I've been sharing with you. For example, maybe you're not super good at graphic design, so maybe you can find a solopreneur who is a graphic designer who's willing to work with you that you can either pay or maybe even sometimes do a barter with. Those are things that are really important. And they're great ways for everybody to kind of get together and talk about and be on the same network with. I'm just going to shut down the share screen for just a second so that I feel like I have more of a conversation with you than just off to the side. Each of us, though, as a solo maker, will also be responsible for a number of other things in our lives. And so, first of all, we are responsible to ourselves. So I wanted to remind everybody who's a solo maker that it's incredibly important that you make time for yourself and that you take good care of yourself. So in terms of that, some of the suggestions that I have for you is that you want to get yourself into a routine. You want to keep yourself on a schedule. You want to plan your schedule. And I look at planning my schedule mostly for like maybe a quarter in advance. I try get things on the calendar, and then I try to break that down monthly. I try to look at that weekly and then daily. Now I'm kind of old school, so I actually like to use like a real daily planner. I have a daily planner like this, and I actually write in it. This is one that is not predated, so I start this any time of the year that I want. I like it because it has a layout that sort of works for me. The second thing that I wanted to do is make sure that you also schedule a day like you would if you were working for somebody else. So that means I'd build breaks into your day, and those breaks can be, like a coffee break. I'd definitely take a lunch break. You could have an afternoon break. I think those are all very important. One of the reasons that I find the morning and the afternoon break useful is because I have a lot of my best thoughts when I'm just able to let go. and let my mind wander. So a lot of times what I will do is, particularly for an afternoon break, every day I take a walk at the end of my day. So it's not really an afternoon break for me, but it is a walk at the end of my day. I walk my dog usually morning and afternoon, and those are good times also for me to clear my head. They're healthy for me, they're healthy for my dog, and being with my dog is very soothing and healthy as well. So those are all important things for you to consider as you take care of yourself. Make sure you are getting enough time for you. It may seem like you can't do that, and it may seem counterintuitive to do that, but you will find that if you take more breaks and take care of yourself, I think you will be more productive and more effective in your business, whatever it may be. So that's taking care of number one, and that's the first thing that I find is something that he has to remember to do. The second thing that I think is really important is that you will all be responsible probably for others, other beings. Um, if you're not, I'm really glad for you because that means you only really need to focus on number one and your business. But if you have children, if you have elderly parents that you're caring for, if you have pets that you are caring for, babies, puppies, and elderly pets on the other end of their life, you will know that those things are somewhat out of your control. And so when something happens, um, it's really easy to feel very torn about what is going on in your life and how do you continue with your work, but also continue caring for the other beings in your life that need your help and your care. So my dog was having a urinary tract infection, and I understood that that's what it was, and I was quite happy because I was able to get him a medical appointment very quickly at the veterinarian. This is not so easy in COVID-19. If you've been trying to get medical help for yourself or for a pet, you will know, or for a family member, you will know that this is not the best of times and can be very difficult to get to get the appointment. It's very difficult once you have the appointment. The social distancing has really created a problem between having the opportunity, particularly with veterinarians, to really get in there and have conversation. So my dog went for his treatment and he was given an antibiotic, a course of antibiotics, and I was going to go the next day to pick up the antibiotics to start to administer to him. Overnight, he had what is known as a vestibular event, unbeknownst to me, and this is the first time that I've heard of this, but I have had many dogs. Essentially what it is vertigo for dogs. So he slept upstairs with me, and I could hear him shuffling in a way that was kind of inconsistent with his normal behavior. I got up at 3 a.m. to see what was going on. I thought I had found the problem. His diaper was wet from the UTI. I had very difficult time changing the diaper. I couldn't understand why he could not stand. He essentially was holding his paws straight out in front of him. However, I got him taken care of. We got him back down. He did go back to sleep. We got up at our regular time, and he could not walk. He still had his arms flying straight out. It was tremendously scary for me. He is a 60-pound dog, and I have a 3-story row home, and we were on the 3rd floor. I do have a help me up harness, which is a really great product in terms of me being able to lift and carry him. So I got him down both flights of stairs to see if maybe on the 1st floor I would be able to get him to stand, and I could not. I was able to call my first gentleman. I like to call him my first gentleman now. And he was able to come with his pickup truck to pick us up and to get us to the emergency room where we found out about the vestibular event. My dog's name is Max. He stayed in the hospital for about 4 days, and, that was fine, but he wasn't eating. He was making some neurological progress with this vestibular event, but the progress also with the UTI was slow. Turns out we were treating it with the wrong antibiotic. So, he's come home with the correct antibiotic. It is starting to work now. He is able to help me a little bit with his walking, but he is in complete rehab mode. He has not been consistently eating and drinking, so I've had to do those things with him with a syringe. He makes progress and then takes a step back. It's just we're at a time right now where, he's improving slowly. So I'm having to give a tremendous amount of time to him at this particular time in his life. And the doctors all say it's a positive prognosis and that he will be better in the next several weeks. But it's very difficult for me right now to be dealing with him. It also means that I need to sleep on the first floor with him, at least for a little while. And I have been doing that, but my house isn't really set up for that kind of living. So I have been sleeping kind of on a camping mat on top of yoga mats on a tile floor. And, I'm kind of too old for that. So my point is that this is a life event that I have no control over, but I need to take care of. And so obviously, it is taking time from the other things that I need to do in terms of my business, but it has to take precedent. So while he was in the hospital, I did do as many tasks as I could. But now that he's back home, at least for a little while, I need to predominantly be near enough to him that I can see what is going on and be there to assist him. So that means I have to relegate myself to some of the less studio-oriented activities. It's okay. I wanted to actually start to update my website, and I told you about that last week. He was in the hospital last week when I was coming to you. So I am now focusing on doing that. And I thought that today I would share with you a couple of tools that I use in order to do that. Over the sort of spring and summer of COVID, last year, 2020, I was using the time to interview some people that I know who are shoe lovers like me. And most of those blogs have been put up on my blog, and most of them have been put up on my podcast. But I still have one to go from a friend of mine named Vicky, and I thought it might be very instructive for you to show you how I actually do that. So with that in mind, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And I'm going to show you some tools that I use. So first of all, what I did with Vicky and all of the people who participated is that I met with them on Zoom and I recorded our Zoom session. Now I actually did the recording with our video cameras off. I want to just take a little aside here with you about that. I did that because I wanted them to tell their story in their voice. And I was just going to interrupt and start to tease out or ask questions once they had told their story. So I sort of listened in the beginning and wrote some notes down. And then when they were done with their story, I started to go back and ask them questions. Here's why I did that method. Part one of this conversation is that I run it through a product called Otter. I'll show you in a minute, so that I can get a transcription of the audio file. The beginning, because it's their story, is what I use for a blog post on my website. So that's them in their own words. I might have edited it a little bit. If there were some ums and ahs, I'd take them out, etc. I then create a blog post on my RoxAnneLava.com site, and I end their blog post with a link to my Kindred Souls podcast, which I keep on SoundCloud. So the entire audio goes up onto SoundCloud, which is a complete podcast of our conversation. The initial story is transcribed and goes into my blog post. So I'm going to just show you a little bit about how that works, and then I'm going to come back and talk to you briefly about me being interviewed as a fashion expert in a similar but yet different way. And we're going to just talk about the differences between the two. So we're sharing my screen, and I wanted to show you, this is Otter. And I love this particular product because it really does bring scripts to you. And down here on my screen, you can see here that I am showing you some of the ones with people that I have interviewed. Okay. And what I also find this useful for is, as I've told you all, a lot of times what I do is I actually don't create a script for what I'm doing with video. I just kind of keep doing it. But there are times when I want to go to that video and I want to get that script because it might be useful for me to edit that script for use in another kind of video. So what I need to do is I need to get the Wiki information here. So I'm going to import audio and video, and this creates a drag and drop for me. And I need to browse my files. Now, I happen to use my iCloud Drive, as you know, if you've seen me before. And I'm heading down here to, I'm going to search it for Wiki. And this will at least put it here. So you can see Wiki Pass Shoe Love Chat. So that's where I'm going. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the audio only, and I'm going to upload that. I'm going to open that. And you'll see now, right, that it's importing it. So this is a two-part process. It will import, and then it will convert. And this is going to take a while. It'll take a while for it to convert. It's a pretty large file. This is a product that has some free elements, I believe, but I think it also, I pay for having a particular level of transcription. So this will notify me. So I'm having it notify me when it's done. And that way I will know. So you can still see that it's uploading. You also can see that I can record directly into Otter. And the reason that I don't do that is because it didn't have that option when I first started dealing with these particular stories and the process. So that would be another way that you could do it. You don't necessarily have to use Zoom. Or another recording platform. Because I have my shoe business and my consulting business, and I am a part-time professor at a couple of universities and colleges, I have a lot of different communication tools and broadcast production kind of tools. So that is something that, just happens to be for me. You can find the combination again that works for you. So while we're doing that, the other thing that's going on is I'm just going to show you how you would add a new post. I can't do it yet because I don't know. But in my WordPress, I just hit new post, and here's what will happen. So I'll add a title, I'll copy and paste and edit in what I get from the true story that Vicky tells. And then what I have to do is I have to find a focus key phrase. I will do a slug and a meta description. I will review my SEO analysis here, okay? And then in the end, I will publish or preview until I like it. And I will go with that until I can actually get to what I would really like to do. So I'm going to go over to Otter again and just check. So see, it's processing, and it's going to take it a while. So let me talk to you just a little bit again about a different process that you might use. So I was asked to talk about fashion and the future of fashion for another particular podcast. I'm a guest on a number of different podcasts, shows, and sometimes I'm a sort of repeat guest, and other times I am, just asked through to be a one-time visit. So I was talking on this future podcast. And so the process that we used is that the interviewer actually did exactly the same thing with me, but he and I had video while we were talking. And he didn't interrupt me much. He interrupted me periodically. But one of the reasons that he did that is because he said that he needs a certain amount of minutes for his podcast episode. And he doesn't want to have to do a tremendous amount of editing. So the easiest way for him to do it is to actually physically see the person he's speaking with, so that if they're getting long, he can do something like this. If he wants to move to the next thing, he can give hand signals. And so that is, the visual becomes a way to help prompt your guest to move on. My idea with my shoe stories is that they may go into a publication of some sort for me, a collection of stories about shoe love and why you love your shoes. And so and what the shoes mean to you. And it's been very interesting. And if you go back to my blog page, you might find it really interesting to read what people thought about. But because I was collecting those stories with a number of outputs in mind, I wanted to have the full story, because in each of these cases, I have the choice to edit or not. So just going through that, I want to go back to something that I have told you before. Because I'm a solopreneur, when I am doing something, I want to maximize that thing, right? So if I'm going to interview somebody about a topic, I want to make sure that I do it in such a way that I can get a blog post, a podcast, and perhaps a future item or product from that discussion. And that way, taking that hour to have that conversation will, in the end, result in 3 or more ways that I can use that material for promotional purposes, etc. Okay, so you need to make sure that when you're doing something with somebody else, you ask them if you can use that material. Now, when I put the book together of the stories, I will have to have a different agreement with the people who I have interviewed. But that's okay, because I already have the material. So having the conversation with them about putting it into a book will be a different and separate story, and it will only need to be had when I get to that step with this particular project. So that is an important thing to consider. So I'm just going to take a minute here to recap a few of the things that we've said, and then I'm going to share one other element with you about sort of how to keep your business going. All right. So first, I talked about one of the biggest challenges in being a solopreneur is that it's you and you alone. And you have other responsibilities as a human being and as the other roles that you play outside of being a solopreneur. So what you really need to do is, one, make sure you take care of yourself. Two, understand that you cannot control everything. Three, when you find yourself in a situation that is going to affect how much time you can, or energy you can devote to your business. One, if you have time to create a plan, create a plan. In my case, my dog was in the hospital for about 3.5 days. So I had an opportunity to kind of get and power through a bunch of things while he was in the hospital. I also had an opportunity to consider and plan my schedule so that I could try and maximize the time that I was going to have. Okay. The other thing about that is that yes, it can be frustrating because you feel like you've just gotten on a roll and you have a list that's, I don't know, just like a Scott's toilet roll, 1,000 sheets long. And now you realize that something has interjected it or stuck itself in your life, which is going to keep you from moving through that list. What you need to have is tremendous grace for yourself. This is part of your self-care. Do not beat yourself up about this. Unless you are a brain surgeon or a rocket scientist, where moving forward and doing your job might have significant results for other people. Just remember that slow and steady wins the race. Select the items, restructure what you're doing, figure out how to be the most efficient with what the time you're going to have, and do not beat yourself up. So, take care of yourself, feed yourself, set a schedule that allows you to take care of yourself within the context of whatever it is that you are facing. The second thing is that once you determine what you can and can't accomplish, try to do things that will have, so one activity will result in several outputs. So again, I recorded a bunch of interviews with people about their love of shoes. I have one more that I have not published yet. So this seems like a good time to publish that because I have the time to do it, and it is something that will give me a result of at least 2 items. So in order to do that, I first recorded my conversation utilizing Zoom. I did not have video on when we did that. My interviewee told their story, and then I went back in and we had a conversation. Okay, I'm turning on share again because I want to show you. So what I then did was I utilized my Otter, OTTER.ai account to import that audio. I love Zoom because it gives you an audio file and a video file. So I imported the audio file and it is currently processing. Okay. Once that processes, I will have the script for our conversation. And what I will do is I will copy the story that my interviewee told me, and I will create a new WordPress blog. And I will take probably the title of this blog from what she has said to me. I will cut and paste her conversation. I will zhuzh it up with some elements, and I will edit it only for things like ums, ahs, etc. I might clean up some grammar or something if it didn't come through properly. I will then do all of my CEO. I'll check my readability, etc. here, okay, which is something that is standard on anything that you do in WordPress. And when I have it the way I want, I will preview and then finally publish. So from that particular item that I had stocked away, I will be able to get a blog post. The second thing I will do is then take that entire audio file and I will put that up on my Kindred Souls podcast, which I host through SoundCloud. So what that will mean, if you follow my Monday mission, what I do throughout the week is via Instagram, I show my updates. So what that means is once the blog post is up, I will post something on Instagram about it. Once I put the podcast up, I will post something on Instagram about it. So when I tie these things all together, as the solopreneur, I'm being as efficient as I possibly can. So standardizing things and finding those items that will help you create more out of one thing than just one result is super important, and it is a way for you to get through the times in your business when in fact you may have to pull back a little, shift gears, change lanes. The other thing that I will be doing is, and I spoke about this last week on my mission, that I'm very inspired by the J. Peterman catalog. And if you don't know it, please look it up. But each item, it's a very item-driven kind of catalog, and it tells a story about each item. And my business is kind of an item-driven business, and my stories are, unique. So what I want to do is bring in line my stories about each of my styles with the promotion that I've been doing with them in my bridal commercials. So I talk about them in a certain way. So what I'm going to spend this week also doing is storytelling for each of the products that I have, and updating my website to reflect those stories. So those are the important things to do. So today, because I am working with my dog and he's ill, I am going to cut my Monday mission short. And I'm going to get back to just taking care of myself, my boy, and my business. Last time through, one final recap. Make sure that you take care of yourself, you take care of those you are responsible for, you do not beat yourself up, that you turn to tasks that you can do within the context of the rest of what's going on around you, and that you make those tasks efficient in terms of having more bang for your buck in the results you get from just working with one thing or choosing to work on one thing. Again, I have used a process, and here are some products you can look into. I record on Zoom. I get scripts through Otter. You can now also record directly onto Otter. I use WordPress for my website, and I use SoundCloud for my podcast. I use Instagram as my primary social media, and I have tied all of that in my Instagram with my Monday mission. So the Monday mission creates what I'm going to do for the week. It creates what the tools are that I'm going to need, or it indicates the tools I'm going to need for what to use. It allows me to set my mission to be something that has more than one result, and it allows me to set up what my social media journey will be on Instagram for the week. If you run your business that way as a solopreneur, even when times are going fine, you will have maximized everything that you are doing. So I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to speaking with you next week. And hopefully, my dog will have turned the corner, and I'm going to be back into my studio because next week I have an exciting thing that I'm working on that will show you a new way to think about revenue streams for your solo business. So, solopreneurs unite, have a great week, and I will talk to you next time.